Britain was still recovering from the effects of the war in the early 1950s. Most families could only dream of owning a car, fuel was scarce, and money was short. However, in 1952, a small, unassuming device emerged that subtly promised something revolutionary. Mobility for common people, not just the wealthy. The Austin A30 didn't come with glitzy flair or speed records. It came with simplicity, usefulness, and a purpose that few people were aware of at the time. However, despite history gradually forgetting its significance, beneath its modest exterior was a vehicle that contributed to redefining daily life in Britain. The Austin A30's true tale is not one of prestige or performance. It is about survival, both for a country and for a sector of the economy that is having difficulty figuring out its future. Britain was under tremendous economic strain after the war. Materials had to be rationed, manufacturing had to support exports, and the government pushed automakers to create cars that could be sold overseas while yet being reasonably priced domestically. After Austin and Morris's interests merged to establish the British Motor Corporation, the company needed a new little automobile that could compete in a market that was changing quickly and replace outdated pre-war designs. After years of hardship, families sought something that was dependable, inexpensive to operate, and sufficiently modern to represent advancement. The Austin A30 was designed specifically to fulfill this need. The A30 appeared straightforward, even unremarkable, when it was introduced in 1952, yet its design marked a dramatic advancement. The A30 had a monocoque design, which is a single body without a separate chassis, in contrast to many tiny British automobiles that are still based on pre-war engineering. As a result, it was stronger, lighter, and less expensive to make. This technical choice was invisible to many consumers, but it changed the way tiny automobiles were manufactured in the decades that followed. The vehicle behaved reliably, felt more substantial on the road, and had an interior that was surprisingly roomy for its size. The newly created A-Series engine, a small and effective power unit that would go on to become one of Britain's most significant engines, was at the center of the A30. It was never intended to thrill, but it produced modest power and provided economy and dependability at a period when both were more important than speed. Owners found that the car used minimal fuel, started reliably on chilly mornings, and required very little in return. Dependability became its biggest asset in a time when mechanical failures were frequent. However, the Austin A30's paradoxes influenced its fate. Compromises were necessary to make it affordable. Even by early 1950s standards, performance was mediocre, and climbing steep hills required patience rather than confidence. Road noise was constant, the inside decor was simple, and the early model's braking performance seemed mediocre rather than comforting. It was occasionally written down by critics as unimpressive, a vehicle designed more for practicality than enjoyment. Ironically, those same attributes made it ideal for those who most needed it. The A30 was the first real experience of independence for thousands of British families. Visits to relatives in far-off towns, weekend getaways to the beach, and everyday journeys that were previously unfeasible by public transportation all became commonplace. While parents cherished the freedom of travel the car signified, children grew up recalling little backseats full of luggage and laughing. It was a companion during a period when stability itself felt like progress, not a status symbol. Additionally, the vehicle quietly but significantly contributed to securing Austin's future. Export markets embraced the A30's robustness and ease of use, especially in Australia and other Commonwealth nations. Its simple mechanical design made servicing even in remote locations simple, enhancing Britain's automotive standing overseas. Sales success gave British Motor Corporation the financial breathing room it needed for upcoming advances and helped stabilize production lines. Motorsport was perhaps the most unexpected development in the history of the A30. Although it was never intended to be a performance vehicle, Fans soon discovered that the sturdy engine and lightweight body responded favorably to modification. The A30 first appeared in endurance and club racing, where its dependability frequently outlasted more potent rivals. In one well-known instance, highly tuned A30 sedans participated in long-distance races, demonstrating that occasionally endurance was more important than speed. Perceptions were altered by these improbable racing appearances, transforming a common family vehicle into a representation of tenacity. Nevertheless, the automotive industry advances swiftly. The expectations of consumers were shifting by the middle of the 1950s. Customers desired more power, comfort, and contemporary design that represented their increasing optimism. In 1956, Austin replaced the A30 with the upgraded A35, improving the formula but subtly erasing the earlier model. There were no farewell parties for the A30, in contrast to opulent sports cars or opulent saloons. Rust and time claimed many vehicles, and they just vanished into second-hand car lots and finally scrapyards. Success rather than failure was the reason for its departure. The A30 stimulated demand for newer, more sophisticated cars by normalizing car ownership. Drivers moved on as Britain entered a more prosperous era, many forgetting the simple machine that had put them behind the wheel in the first place. Because few people thought they were unique, many A30s had difficult lives as cheap transportation and were rarely preserved. Examples that have survived now show something that contemporary audiences frequently miss. The A30 is a symbol of the transition from pre-war automobiles to contemporary tiny cars. Its A-series engine lineage would power generations of British cars for decades, and its engineering philosophy inspired subsequent models. More significantly, it represents a change in culture, the point at which mobility ceased to be a privilege and became a regular aspect of life. The Austin A30's unseen influence is evident in retrospect. It was not intended to impress collectors or historians. It was constructed to assist common people in exceptional circumstances. In addition to engineering achievements, its legacy may be found in experiences such as first driving lessons, family vacations, and the quiet sense of ownership in a country in recovery. Although they rarely make headlines, cars like the A30 have a far greater impact on society than any performance figure could. The A30 serves as a reminder that genuine automotive significance isn't always loud and dramatic as fans of vintage cars rediscover these understated vehicles. Sometimes it comes quietly, transforms everything, and then vanishes before anyone has a chance to notice. Cars like this, which are trustworthy, long-lasting, and constructed for functionality more than show, helped Britain's roads advance. And maybe that's why the Austin A30 is still relevant today. It narrates a tale of tenacity, inventiveness, and a period when advancement was made cautiously 1 mile at a time. If you like to relive the overlooked periods of automotive history and the vehicles that subtly influence the modern world we drive in, think about subscribing and participating in upcoming trips into tales that are worthy of being remembered. A-Series.